What's going on, team? It's Caddy with Money Vesting. I hope that you all are having an amazing day. So in this video, we're going to be going over the S&P 500 index, ticker symbol SPX. It's going to be part of our daily market update, and we will identify those key support and resistance levels and where can the market potentially go remainder of the week going into next week. As always, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure that you drop a like. It really helps out with the channel. Also, if you're new, make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out any future market updates and videos related to investing and technical breakdowns. So if you look at the SPY holdings right here, you can see Amazon down close to 3%, Microsoft down over 3%, Nvidia over 4%, AMD down over 4% as well, Netflix almost 4.5%, Disney was down about 2.5%, and then MasterCard, Visa both down about 1.8%, Facebook close to 2.5%, Google, Intel both close to 1.75%. So the entire market essentially got rocked, and the S&P 500 was down close to 1% in general. And then if you go over to some of the indexes, you can see how the S&P 500 was down close to 1%, like I said, and then NASDAQ was down even more, over 2%, and then the Dow Jones finished flat, essentially up 4 basis points. Now, if you've been following up with any of my previous market updates, you have a really good understanding on where those levels, those key levels are going to sit. Today, we're going to go as far as June 8th, when the market hit a high of close to 32.30, and then the next couple of days essentially hit a high of 32.23, which is what these two candles represent. And then the following day, the market's gapped down significantly and then sold off this big red candle that you guys see all the way down to the 3,000 level, which is going to be our very key level of support, and that's where our bull camp sits. So if we were to kind of zoom in, and right now we're looking at the daily chart, and we will jump over to the 1 hour chart to look at the price action and where those key levels are going to be. But you can see that following the next few days, it did push up as high as 31.55. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this chart up just a little bit so it makes it easier for us to understand. So 31.55 was this level right here. So you can see how on the daily chart we've hit that level not once, twice, but 3 times, and then we essentially sold off all the way down to 3,000. So this right here is the 3,000, and this right here is 31.55. Prior to us breaking out of 31.55, we recognized this as a really strong bear camp, and this 3,000 level as a really strong bull camp, because this was a very clear level of resistance, and this right here was a very clear level of support. But moving forward, you guys can see that we finally broke out of that level on July 6th, hitting as high as 31.82, which in my previous market update we recognized as the next resistance because of the fact that that has previously acted as a support going back as far as June 10th, right? So this is where we essentially found support on the intraday pattern. If you were to look at the 1 hour chart on that day, you will see that we were all the way down to that level, but then pushed up towards the end. So this is what we had recognized as a really good support, which can potentially act as a resistance moving forward. And that's exactly what we saw on July 6th right here. And then over the course of the next few days, you can see that the pattern has just been consolidating in between this range. So 31.85 as being a really key level of resistance, and then 31.55, we switched that from our previous bear camp to now being a bull camp. And the reason being is because every time we were below 31.55, as you guys have seen over the last 5 days, we sold off all the way down to 31.36, but then closed at 31.69. This candle right here, we sold off all the way down to 31.15, so all the way down here, but then the bulls came in and pushed the pattern higher to close right at 31.52. Last Friday, we had a really good day, gains of over 1%, and then you can see that we hit a low of 31.36, but then pushed up again, closing in on 31.86. So from my previous update from yesterday, we essentially talked about the fact that we're going to open somewhere in between this level, somewhere in between 32.30 and 31.85, and the reason was because the futures market was up close to 0.5%, so there was definitely a bullish momentum going into today, and also the fact that we closed higher than our 31.80 resistance, right? So this candle closed at 31.85, so which represented a bullish context for the pattern. So we opened higher right here, we hit a high of 32.33 or 32.35 rather, which was recognized as a really strong level of resistance. And then towards the end, towards the last 3 hours, we essentially sold off, and the pattern went all the way as low as 31.49, but then we closed at 31.55. So you can see how we closed at 31.55. So right now, we're still in the bullish context, but there's definitely a lot of weakness in the pattern, and we will jump over to the 1 hour chart to understand how the price action performed on an intraday level. So now if you were to go over to the 1 hour chart, you can see that this right here is where the markets opened, right? So July 13th, 9:30 a.m. and we pushed up all the way to that 32.30 level as our next resistance that we had recognized in my yesterday's video. And I also mentioned that we are going to potentially open somewhere in between this level, which we did. We pushed up all the way, consolidated for the next 4 hours before selling off all the way down to 31.55. This right here was potentially going to be our next support because that has previously acted as a resistance. You guys can see right here. And in my opinion, that could have been the next support, but we essentially broke below that level, so we broke down. And the next support was going to be at 31.50 based on previous patterns. So if you go back even further, you can see that that is where the next resistance sits. So this old resistance acting as a new support moving forward. So tomorrow is going to be a really key testing level between the bulls and the bear. And I really want to know more from you guys and get some feedback on what you think, where the S&P 500 will open and where it is potentially going to go tomorrow and remainder of the week. So now that we have broken down the pattern on a more intraday level, let's go over some of those key levels that we need to watch moving forward. So right now the futures market is open. The S&P 500 futures is up close to 30 basis points, which is what this is going to be, and the US 100 is the Nasdaq 100 futures, which is also open and up close to about 40 basis points. So the futures market is in green, but again, that is no representation of where the market potentially will open tomorrow because things change overnight. And there's also a lot of earnings coming up. So PepsiCo reported their earnings, and I think they beat their expectations, which is why they were up, I think, close to 7 or 10 basis points. But tomorrow we kick off earnings with JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, and then Delta Airlines is also going to be a big one tomorrow. And then later this week, we have Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, and some of those other financial services companies that are reporting their earnings. So it largely depends on how well they did in these recent quarters for us to get a clear idea on where the direction can potentially go. Because like I said, that tomorrow is going to be a really key testing level between the bulls and the bears. And we need to keep an eye on those levels because that is going to determine where the direction and the market goes moving forward. So right now, I want you guys to remember these 5 levels which are going to be really important moving forward. So 32.30 remains our bear camp today because that's also where we consolidated before selling off all the way down to 31.50, and that's also a level of where we have previously gone rejected at. Now moving forward, this 31.84 is going to be a near-term resistance that we need to watch, because that has also been a level of resistance in the past, right? So we broke below that level, and that can now potentially start acting as our next near-term resistance. So I'm going to put a price label right there. So 31.85 to 31.80, right around that level. 31.55, in my opinion, should hold the support. Again, nobody really knows where the market's going to go. But in my opinion, I feel like 31.55 is going to hold its support because like I said, every time the pattern dipped below 31.55, it was pushed up by the bulls, essentially closing higher than that level. So that remains to be our bull camp until it's breached and we break below 31.55 and we close below 31.55 as well. So you can see how that previously has acted as a resistance. Moving forward can continue to act our good support on the daily pattern. So if we break below the 31.55 level, the next key support that I'm watching very closely is going to be around the 31.15 level, because that's the point where we dipped all the way down to on July 9th before rallying all the way up to 32.30, giving us a good 3.5 to 3.6% gain. So that is a good support that we need to watch moving forward if we do dip below the 31.55 level tomorrow. Now, if we break below 31.15, the fifth support or the next support that I'm going to be watching very closely is going to be right around here. and that sits at 3080, and we have recognized this as previous resistance, previous support, and previous resistance levels. So that is kind of like the game plan moving forward. Right now you can see that the last 3 hours the market's sold off. 3230 remains our bear camp. 3185 our more near-term resistance. If we break below 3155, which right now is our bull camp and our support, the next support sits at 3115. If we break below 3115, the next support is going to be 3080, and then if we break below that level, then we're off retesting 3000, which is our strongest bull camp that sits right around here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and my quick technical breakdown, and I hope it was clear and concise in order for us to understand where those levels are going to be moving forward and what we need to watch in terms of those key support and resistance levels. As always, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure that you drop a like. It really helps out with the channel. Also subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future market updates and videos related to investing and technical breakdowns. As always, happy investing, and I will see you guys in the next video.